Hello viewers, welcome to my YouTube channel Curiosity Box. In this video I'm going to review Mozart and the Whale, the book and the movie. Now, I first discovered that the movie, first of all, I was reading either a book about, not a book about Asperger's and autism, and looking online about it, and I discovered this. So somebody this mentioned in something, so I looked it up and I bought it, and I was actually totally enchanted by the movie when I saw it, and I cried, obviously. So I'll read you what the movie is about first, because there's two ways to do this, because this is the book. Now, when I first got the book, I saw it online and thought, oh well, it must be a transcript of the movie kind of thing, because I like reading these kinds of books. But so when I first got it, I was like a little bit, it's like, oh, it's a little bit disappointed, because I thought it would just be a straight transcript of the movie. But it is an amazing book and it's totally worth reading, but it will affect your judgment on the movie. And if you watch the movie first, that will affect your judgment on the book. So, the way I did it was to watch the movie first, which I really enjoyed doing it that way. Because it's a totally Hollywood movie. The way they've taken the story and sort of mixed up the timelines and mixed up the names and just created a Hollywood fairy tale out of it. It's a beautiful movie. I'll read the back of the DVD set. A bizarre and achingly beautiful love story, Mozart and the Whale explores the lives of Isabel, a brilliant artist and musician, and Donald, a maths savant, both of whom have Asperger's syndrome, a form of autism. Donald, dishevelled and scatterbrained, leads an autistic support group at the local community centre. The other members of the support group are incapable of focusing on anything outside their obsessions. A new member joins the group, stunningly beautiful Isabel Sorensen. Donald is in total awe of her, and she knows it. So yeah, I really enjoyed the movie. I thought Josh Hartnett is brilliant in it. And Radha Mitchell, she's brilliant in it, but I really like Josh. I did relate more to Josh's character, and that followed through in the book as well. But I really was enchanted, and I showed it to someone else to sort of explain things a bit, and I think it's a good movie if you want to show other people as well. But so that's the movie. Now the book, when I started reading the book, started reading the first half of the book, was actually, because I'd seen the Hollywood fairy tale movie version of it, I was quite disillusioned, because it wasn't how I thought, and the people who are lovely people in it, they just sort of was a bit angry, because it wasn't this magical fairy tale, and it was, a lot of stuff surprised me, and I thought it made it start to become unrelatable, and I didn't feel like I could connect with their story or feel that connection with them. But when it got to the second half of the book, I totally found a lot of things that I found were quite poignant and sort of struck a chord, I guess. And the second half of the book is really affecting and uplifting, and I enjoyed it a lot more than the first half of the book. The way it's laid out, I really like how it's laid out, because I suppose I should read the back first, shouldn't I? This is the book about the people the film is based on. So, when Jerry and Mary Newport met, the connection was instant. A musical genius and a mathematical wonder, the two shared astronomic IQs, but they also shared something else. They both were diagnosed with Asperger's syndrome, a form of autism that affects millions of Americans and makes social contact painfully unbearable. When Jerry and Mary married, they were catapulted into the limelight. They appeared on 60 Minutes and soon were known as superstars in the world of autism, shining examples of two people who refused to give up in the face of their mutual challenge. But just when it appeared that their lives would enjoy a fairy tale ending, their marriage fell apart. The Hollywood feeding frenzy was too much to handle, and they divorced. After heartbreaking years of soul-searching, Jerry and Mary remarried. Today, with their union stronger than ever, they have dedicated themselves to helping countless other people with Asperger's and autism lead lives of dignity. Mozart and the Whale is an unforgettable love story of the incredible chronicle of their journey together and apart. So that is what really happened, and the film sort of glosses over it, I guess, and sort of makes it sort of fairy tale, happy ending, happy ever after kind of thing, which is why I found the book sort of like a jolt, because it wasn't the same at all. But the way it's laid out, I really like how it's laid out, because first of all, it's Jerry's side things and point of view, and then you read through and it's Jerry's point of view, and then you get to a date, and then it starts to become Mary's point of view, and that carries on through each chapter, and I found that really, especially in the second half of the book, I found that really useful and really interesting to see both sides of the story and both viewpoints from both their experiences of Asperger's. Say Asperger's in the UK, so that's how it's said in the UK, that's how I'm going to be pronouncing it. So I especially found a lot of it uplifting and really poignant. I'll read out I marked the particular things that I thought that were particularly well expressed and sort of that I could sort of relate to and that struck a chord with me. So I'll read out the particular sections. They're a bit out of context, but this is what I picked. As was typical, I exploded. "Don't do that," I screamed. "Don't touch me like that." Mary didn't shout back. She rarely did that back then. She'd just shut down, much like that robot on Lost in Space when someone yanked the power pack out of his neck. She'd roll over and curl into a fetal ball. "I need to be alone, Jerry," she'd whisper, which of course was the last thing I ever allowed her to do. Instead of giving her some space to breathe, I'd blast into hyperdrive, clumsily trying to fix the situation right then and there by ranting and raving, trying to force her to understand my side of things, and this only made the situation worse. And then this is a technique that Jerry chose because he was on his computer a lot, replying to emails, while Mary'd lie in bed listening to him on the computer. And he's got rules that he tried to follow. Number 1, resist the temptation to check my email at home. 2, wait 24 hours before responding to any offensive message. 3, before sending any message that might offend a group, run it by somebody who understands the context in which the group might read it. So basically, particularly that wait 24 hours before responding to any offensive message, because you need time to process things, and you can relate that to when you're talking to someone and you need to process things first, because brain patterns sort of think things that are wrong and get paranoid brain patterns that think, or it must mean that, or then you get all worked up about something, and then if you leave it for a while and just think it through, then it's like, oh hang on, it meant that. It's like, and then sometimes when I read things and pick up on some bad things about things. Sorry, I'm being a bit cryptic, but then I'll look at it again, it's like, and then there's something good there, and it's like it was invisible before, because it was just too picking up the bad things, and then look, it's like, oh, I didn't see that before, that's really sweet. And that's what I tend to do, so I like that wait 24 hours, because it gives you time to process your emotions about something. And then there's a bit what Jerry says in here, and it says, I spoke about how those of us with autism experience passages in life just like everyone else. Realising you're different is a passage, so is finding your first friend, being ridiculed for the first time, leaving home, finishing school, getting your first job, and experiencing that awful first feeling of total hopelessness. Every human crosses those invisible lines of demarcation in life that leads us from one chapter to the next. Autistic people just do it in their own way, while travelling across terrain that is truly terra incognita to everyone but us. Every milestone in life is unique. So are the emotions that arise when we experience them. The important thing to remember is to just keep moving and try to enjoy the journey, which is always much easier said than done. So I quote like that. And this is something that Mary says about Jerry. This is what Jerry says. If I could take it all back I would, but I can't. I can only promise that I'll never yell around you again. And he never did. After that day, Jerry never raised his voice around me. I don't know how he did it. Autistic tantrums aren't something you can just turn off like a waterfall. Autistic tantrums aren't something you can just turn off like you would a water faucet. When one explodes inside you, all you can do is hold on, let it rip, and pray that whoever is within earshot is either understanding or deaf. There's a very poignant bit that Jerry wrote, which made me cry a bit. Mary has allowed me to become more comfortable with being Jerry Newport. Who could ask for a better gift than that? Sure, there's a part of me that will forever remain an awkward 16-year-old, starved for attention, desperate for acceptance, hungry for love. But little by little, day by day, he has begun to grow up, which reminds me of the one lesson I've learned from this crazy life of mine. Happily ever after doesn't exist for anyone, especially for those of us with Asperger's. We were born in an unusual way, with unusual traits. Like it or not, we're never going to fit into the so-called normal world. Sometimes I wonder why anyone would want to. You can deny this fact of life all you want. You can pretend it doesn't hold true for you or your child, but sooner or later you'll have to accept it. And the funny thing is, once you do that, something magical happens deep inside you. You start to accept who it is you really are, and you begin to forge a friendship with the most special, wonderful person you can ever meet, yourself. Well, that was really poignant and it made me cry. And this is really lovely thing what Mary wrote. If I ever got to give one of those talks like he does, here's what I'd tell those people out there like Jerry and me, who are trying to make their relationships work. Get a shoebox, decorate it up, and turn it into a treasure chest. Next, write down all the things that you and your mate love to do together on scraps of paper and place those scraps inside your treasure chest. Then, find a trash can, write down all your negative traits, not necessarily what you've been told not to like, but what it is that doesn't make you feel good about yourself. Toss all those scraps into the waste basket. The last thing you need to do is ask yourself this simple question: what would I rather do? Dig through a treasure chest or rummage through a trash can? So I thought that was really poignant. I also loved the bit where Josh Hartnett rings them up. It's like, hi, it's Josh. Like, oh, it's too, like that too. I really enjoyed watching the movie. I think it's enchanting, and it's really interesting to see what bits they took from the book and what bits they took from their story to create into a Hollywood fairy tale movie. So I totally recommend both the book and the movie. I found them really interesting and poignant and made me cry, and I love them. So I hope you have enjoyed this review, and thank you for watching.